Good evening and welcome to this week's Black Mental Health is Black Health. I'm your host, Bronwyn, Miss B. And we are having an exciting topic tonight. But before we do that, we always take some deep breaths. So let's take some deep breaths that woosah at the end of the day. Clear your mind and let's get started. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. One more. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. It's at woosah at the end of the day, and something you can do yourself anytime you just feel a little stress. Justin, what did you think about that breathing?
I loved it. I got to remind myself not to hold my breath at the top of it because then it feels like you're choking. So,
Well, I'm glad you got a few deep breaths because we all need that
mhm.
woosah, not just at the end of the day, but anytime we might need it.
Yeah, yeah,
So, as we get started, before, as I always do, I ask my guests, tell me something cool. Who are you? And something cool about yourself.
yeah. My name is Justin. I am a licensed professional counselor here in Dallas, Texas. I also recently got licensed in Louisiana, so I'm dual licensed at the moment. And an interesting fact about myself, I used to be a theater teacher for about 5 to 6
Really?
years in New Orleans.
Is that where you're from?
I'm from Los Angeles. Yeah, I'm from Los Angeles, California, born and raised. Parents went to Grambling for a little bit, so then that's how I got in Louisiana. And then my
Hmm.
great grandfather's from Shreveport, so
Gotcha.
I have family in Shreveport. That's the Louisiana connection from LA to LA.
I love it.
Mhm.
That is way cool. I didn't know that. How interesting. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about Black men and their mental health. And traditionally in our culture, we don't do therapy, and it's definitely men. We
Yeah.
really don't do therapy. So how did you even start with that as a focus since we don't do therapy and Black men don't do therapy, which, by the way, everyone listening, is a myth. We do therapy. Not enough of us do, but yes, many of
Right.
us, more and more, are doing therapy. So how did you begin to focus on Black men?
Also, for me, it started in my second year of grad school. So when I was at Xavier, we had to write a paper. And the paper that I wrote on was promiscuity among black men.
Hmm.
Right? And so I kind of had this theory of like, hey, I feel like promiscuity or a portion of it might be a maladaptive stress coping mechanism, right? And how black men address stress and deal with life challenges that they don't know how to face. And so that's kind of started my journey along looking into black men and why we do what we do, in addition to COVID. So COVID, you had a lot of black men that were dying. So like I'm talking about dying in their 50s, from celebrities down to just your regular individual. And I was really trying to figure out like why are we dying so young, and what are some of the contributing factors to that.
Mm. What were some of the tell them one of the two factors you found of why we died so young?
Well, compounding stress and then lack of help-seeking behaviors.
Mm.
Yeah, so when you're looking at the compounding stress, the effects of stress and holding everything in, it kind of just,
Oh no, you
uh,
froze.
oh, am I
Okay,
back?
we're back. It froze.
Mhm.
We're back.
But
So
yeah,
you
no,
were saying that's a stressor for me when things like that happen.
look,
So
right,
yeah, the stress. And what else did you say?
lack of help seeking, right? So that can be
Mm.
going to the doctor, that can be reaching out to community, that can just be asking for assistance in general.
And definitely going to therapy falls into that because coming
Hmm.
to therapy is a help seeking behavior. And if overall there's a pattern of lack of help seeking, therapy definitely is not going to be high on the list, you
Right.
know. And then was that just for Black men or Black people in general? What you those
Um,
findings?
what I was looking at was for black men
Mhm.
specifically, but you're probably gonna see that within the community. My dog is over here.
Mhm.
You're probably gonna see that within the community as well. That distrust when it comes to mental health.
Mhm.
And so that's
Yes.
that's one of the barriers that we often have to overcome. So I think the benefit of us being clinicians of color, black clinicians, we offer a face that they can trust.
Mhm. Is that what one of the reasons you think black men still shy away from therapy?
Almost
Is
definitely.
that so? Where do you think that distrust stems from?
Systemically. Systemically is going to be a real big part of that. And so when you're looking at one, psychology in general being
Hmm.
used to prove black people's inferiority, right, and inadequacy. So I think that plays a part into it. The lack of trust within the medical field in general when it comes to men, and all in addition to black men. And then also I think just the stigmas around therapy, right? And so if I'm going to see somebody, what does that say about my masculinity? What does that say about my resiliency? Does it mean that I'm weak? Does it mean that there's something wrong with me?
You
Right?
said something interesting. So, how does coming to therapy play into a black man's masculinity or his feelings about his
Mhm.
masculinity? Tell me a little more about that.
A lot of what I see when black men come to see me, it's a lot of questioning the roles within that masculinity for them. Right?
Mm,
So it's like, hey, I've been feeling this way. I've been feeling the stress about it, and I feel shame about this. Right?
mm,
I feel shame that I don't like having to be a provider full time, right? Or I feel shame that I feel stressed out by my family, or I feel like I give, I give, I give, I give, I give, and I'm
mhm,
expected to receive nothing back. And it's something that I
mm,
no longer want to engage in that type of relationship. And so when they say these things for the first time, it's like, do I have permission to feel this way? Is it wrong to feel this way? And then now you're having to challenge their ideas around masculinity and what it looks like.
mm. Our ideas of masculinity just in this society
Mhm.
is so different. And then for black men being a subset,
Yes.
black folks are just a subset anyway. So how masculinity looks can be very different.
Yeah.
I would think. In the grand scheme of things, how is being a black male and being masculine different from just a greater America?
Well, I would say the barriers put in place, right? So when you're trying to meet those hegemonic Eurocentric masculine needs or
Mm,
masculine expectations, you're gonna come up against a lot of walls, right? A lot of different challenges. So for instance, this idea of being that provider and even that protector. How can I provide if you're going to limit me financially, right? We're seeing some of that now, coming into 2025, to where now you have a lot of the DI initiatives being removed, which is kind of taking some of that financial stability away, right? Because now we have a reason not to hire black people, right? If
mm.
if we start to see, I'm not saying that'll happen, but if we start to see
No,
that
it's
fulfill,
gonna happen.
yeah, right, right. So now we have again, they can say, well, you lack the qualifications. So now I
Hmm.
can no longer make the money I would need to provide for my family,
Mm.
or even just a portion of it. And so, in addition to the protector piece, how can I protect my family if I'm villainized?
Hmm.
Right? If me trying to protect my family, myself included, is brought to be seen as a threat. So now I'm having to kind of take this unwilling step back that makes me feel weak and makes me maybe lose some respect as compared to my white counterparts.
Wow. And I can see where that might play into that almost loneliness. I know that you deal with the loneliness
Mhm.
epidemic in black men. I want to know what that is, but I want you to expound on that for the
Mhm.
audience. But I can see where the idea of masculinity, being a black man in America, removing
Mhm.
DI, don't think these all of these issues could make one be just revert, into themselves,
Yes.
thus perpetuating loneliness because I can't share this with anyone because if I share it, I'm not masculine, I'm not macho, I'm not a man to say I feel weak.
Yeah.
So I don't, in my mind, I could see how that is. So talk to me about that loneliness epidemic. What is that and just how does that work and how do you overcome it?
Yeah. So for me, that loneliness epidemic is the feeling of not just self-isolation, but feeling that nobody cares. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the theoretical frameworks I use is Adlerian, and Adlerian is real big on social connection and social interest, meaning I have something to give and others have something to give to me. So when I
Mm-hmm.
feel like nobody cares about me or nobody cares about my pain, then I feel like I have nothing to give or there's nothing for me to receive. So I back out of it. Right. So now I'm disconnected completely. I'm in the house, but I'm not here. I'm not present, right? I
Mhm.
seek my own solitude. I have to isolate in order to heal. And so now we start to see that loneliness, right? That unwillingness to connect to other men who are experiencing the same thing, that unwillingness to connect to our family because we feel like they don't care. And so now I'm just left to deal with all these things on my own. And it's just me, myself, and I, right? And that can become a very dangerous thing. We see that when it comes to
Mhm.
depression. That's one of the main symptoms of depression is self isolation.
Mhm. Mhm. How common is this loneliness?
I would say it's fairly common because you don't. I think men are just now kind of getting into realizing how important community is,
Mhm.
right? And realizing that it's okay to have people that you can depend on, right? Stepping away from that lone wolf mentality because that's kind of the mentality that's always been lauded, right? I can do it all by myself. I don't need
Mhm.
nobody. I built this from the ground up. And then you realize all you really did was just build a wall around yourself that nobody can get into and you can't escape.
You know, when you say that, I'm going to ask a question that some people might think is odd. Can a person be lonely and still be in a relationship?
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think all of us have experienced it at some point.
Yes, I think so too. But we want to. These are questions. I try to think of questions
Mhm.
others might ask.
Yeah.
In our profession, it makes sense. Yeah, you can be. So expound on that a little bit. How can a person maybe even be married and be lonely, or in a long term
Mm.
relationship but still be lonely? Tell me about that.
Oh, yeah. If you're in a relationship where you don't feel emotionally safe,
Mm,
right, then that can become very lonesome, right? Because
mm,
if I'm
mhm,
expected to carry, or if let me change, if I expect myself and I feel or perceive that the expectation is for me to carry the burden of everyone else, right,
mm,
then I just become a laborer in my own relationship. I'm laboring emotionally, right, by having to be stoic and being the strong rock for everybody. Because if I break, right, or if I show this vulnerability, then does everything come falling down, right? And
mm,
so by disconnecting, by disengaging, I'm able to do that. But I isolate myself in this, right? Now I don't feel understood because I'm disconnected. And so one thing I tell my clients, I say, one, you have to connect with yourself to connect with others.
mhm,
Right. So you connect with yourself not to just block off, but so that you can communicate what you're feeling. You can communicate
mhm,
what your experience is. And if you're not communicating that, then it's just you in this space. I take care of everybody else, but when it comes to myself, hey, I'm all right. Oh man, how you doing?
mhm,
No, I'm good. Just another day, another dollar.
mhm.
I can't complain.
And, it's funny, we think of women doing that,
Hmm.
and that may be enlightening for some to think of men taking that same role. I'm good. And for men, here my perception and what I see is we as a society, men want to hold the masculine image, and the
Hmm.
masculine image can be weak. And as women, as black women, we've got that strong black woman
Yep.
role, which is not a good thing either. So this idea of being strong in American culture is something touted about as good, but being black and American having to be strong is a whole different issue.
Whole different issue, right?
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's something we've been forced to be.
Mhm.
Right? Black women are forced to be strong because of the systemic oppression that black women face, right? And getting it
Mhm.
twofold because you're getting the frustration of
Mhm.
these black men
Mhm.
who don't know how to deal with these feelings or are
Mhm.
uncertain on how to express them or feel powerless in these emotions. And so sometimes
Mhm.
you might try to establish a sense of power, over your spouse and over your
Mhm.
children and over your kids, right? And then for men, it's going to come as this emotional stoicism, right? I
Mhm.
can't emote whether it be happiness or whether it be sadness or whether it be fear, right? I have to be this rigidness. And we call that rigid masculinity, right? Rigid masculinity, it leaves no room for adjusting to the challenges of life. So
Mm.
now you're having to be strong all the time, when in reality, you actually have a lot of turmoil going on inside.
Mm. Rigid masculinity.
Hmm.
And when I hear that in your description of it, it sounds as if there is no room for emotions for black men.
And I would even go further. We when you are dealing with rigidness in general, specifically masculinity, you're having to dehumanize yourself in order to fit yourself in that box,
Mm.
right? I have to disconnect from the things that make me human, right? My emotions in itself make me human. My ability to connect with others is a part of what makes me human.
Mm. How harmful is that? That you are disconnecting with yourself, your emotions, which are part of who we are,
Hmm.
and to have to disconnect from that. How damaging is that?
One can say very. It can be very frustrating, right?
Mhm.
Because when you are taking that route, I think that's what starts to contribute to no one cares, right? Because in reality, no one knows, and no one knows because we feel nobody cares to know,
Mhm.
right? And
Mm.
yeah, and there are times to where I can see how that message is can be reinforced at times, right? Because
Mhm.
one of the other things is when it comes to women, when it comes to black women and black men, how do we receive these emotions? Right? How
Mm.
do I deal with an emotionally intelligent man? How do I deal when if my husband comes to me, or my partner comes to me and he says, "Hey, the job was really hard today, and it's really beating me down." Do I go into, "Oh, I have to do this on my own now because he gonna quit his job tomorrow," when all he
Mhm.
when all he said was the work was just hard today, and that's
I
it.
just need a voice.
Yeah, I just need to express this. And so the
Mhm.
moment that we start to notice, okay, when I share these things, the woman in my life takes it as a threat to her safety, then what do?
Mm.
I go back in.
The man goes back in, the woman does, and they don't communicate.
They don't communicate.
Mhm.
They don't
Because
communicate.
if the woman takes that role of, whether she says it aloud or not, but her actions, "Oh, well, I need to jump into this because who knows what he's gonna do," like you said,
Hmm.
then throw my hands up, as a man. So
Hmm.
I could see that in that, and we'll come back to that communication in a minute. Because I think, well, let's just get that black men and women in their communication issues. In any relationship, regardless of race,
Yes.
ethnicity, or gender, whatever, communication can be a big problem.
Yes.
What can you say about just black men and communication?
Man,
Period.
I'm reading a book right now. I'm actually looking at it. It's called From Brotherhood to Manhood. It's by Dr. Um, I think it's Dr. Andrew Franklin or Anderson Franklin. It's an
Mm,
old book. It's from like early
yeah.
2000s.
What's the
Yeah.
name of it?
From Brotherhood to Manhood, and he
Okay.
covers like a lot of stuff. And then there's another research book I was reading, um, meaning it's kind of too far for me to really make it out, but it's called basically making meaning of blackness. So it's a
Mm,
bunch of scholarly articles that research different factors of the black community. And so one of the ones they talked about is the relationship between black men and black women. And the same thing that he addresses in the Brotherhood to Manhood. These are two different books by two different authors.
mhm.
And so in Brotherhood to Manhood, he talks about the disconnect in black women and black men's communication is hate the one you love, loves the one you hate.
Mm, Break that down a little more for us.
Hate the one you love for a lot of men, I think it's, and you hear this now in a lot of the rhetoric.
Mhm,
It is mm, it being difficult to acknowledge the progression of black women,
mhm,
right? And so in one way there is an admiration for it that black men, he says black men do
mhm,
feel, right? Man, we're seeing these black women in these spaces, but instead of seeing it as this could be my door in,
mhm.
right? Instead now it's seen as this makes me less than. Right, and so I'm
Mm,
hating the one that I love because I'm admiring their progression and what's going on, but I'm not
mm.
able to accept it as being an extension of us as a community. Instead,
Wow.
it's taking as this makes me feel insignificant because that's supposed to be me,
Mm. That's deep.
right? And then love the one you hate when you're looking at women, right? Is I'm loving our black men, but at the same time, I'm frustrated with the treatment.
Mhm,
Right? The
mhm.
frustration, the emotional reactivity that's coming in that space. And so you're having those heads bumping. Another part for men too that can make it difficult with the communication piece is respecting what your woman is telling you, right? Because a lot of times in circles, this has been going on for a long time. What you hear is, man, don't let that woman tell you nothing. She's not going to respect it,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you listen to her too much, she's going to think she's running things.
Yeah, and it which is a disrespect on both ends.
It can
So
be.
she might have something to say, but if you feel like she's running you, you don't want to hear it. But she
Hmm.
may be saying it in such a way that you can't hear it. I always say we have to speak so that the listener can hear us.
Mm,
How is that message being delivered? And what
mm.
I see that as part of it is, man, she can't tell you nothing. When if you stop and listen, wow, she might have something to say. But now go put it back on the women too. How are you presenting it?
And that's a big part
That's
too.
that's
And
what I mean.
no, I love it. I loved how you bring that up, Miss B. How are you presenting it? But then also too, if your husband, if he is deferring to you or he is listening to you a little bit more than the average man, do you lose respect for him? Do you feel like do
Mhm.
you start to question his leadership when maybe in reality he is trying to honor your voice?
Are you taking the view of, see, if I got to do everything.
Oh yeah,
hmm Back to that communication and understanding each other. That's
yeah,
why couples therapy is a good thing. To
no,
work
yeah.
on that, but it really is.
Hmm.
And just in talking about that, and that's looking at just the couples and everything. I kind of wanted to shift a little bit and talk about just community. So it is my belief that we were created to be in community. We were not meant to ever be alone. Um, and when you talk about, the loneliness epidemic of Black men and how it is easy to just kind of retreat into yourself because
Yeah,
you have so many barriers against you. So what is your thought just about the importance of community for Black men?
it's very important. Like I said, and so again, the Adlerian theory I come from is humongous on community. Like it's literally centered around your human connection to everybody else around you, right? To where if you have low social interest, you're not caring about others, or you feel like you have nothing to offer to others, right?
Mm-hmm.
My needs and nobody else's, or I'm putting everybody else's needs above mine because I'm not as important. And so the important space of community is that connection, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's having, a strong friendship group. And that was another thing that was brought up in the books of Black Make, the meaning of blackness, right? One of the articles was addressing how when Black women look at the Black community, it is very communal.
Mm-hmm.
Even the activities, right? Whether
Mm-hmm.
it be cooking together, whether it be sitting on the porch talking with each other, whether it be going to a salon. I don't know too many people do the salon thing anymore. Whether it be weekly phone calls with your girlfriends or with your family members, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas men see the Black community as more competitive, right? I'm in competition
Mm.
with you, right? I have to be better than you, right? Oh, once I get this spot, I have to hold on to this because I can't let nobody else get this. And so it diminishes the willingness to communicate and have community.
Wow. I'm just kind of marinating on that thought of men see community as competitive and
Mm.
women see it as communal.
Yeah,
That
and, mhm.
that's ooh, go on.
Yeah, and I think too, some of that communal piece can has been like feminized, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll bring another perspective into this. A lot of times, male relationships are sexualized,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So if I'm real close to my homeboy, why you always hanging with him?
Why you hang with him? What's wrong with you?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and somebody can have something to say about that where there's shame around this relationship
Mm-hmm.
when I really feel close and brotherly to, right? Whereas with
Mm-hmm.
women, oh man, they just sisters, right? They grow up just doing a whole bunch of stuff together. That if you try to do it with, within a mentor group, yes, have your boundaries. It's like gets a little weird, but just
Yeah.
having that closeness in general can be sexualized and made to feel emasculine because why are you always hanging out with this person? Why do you guys
Mm-hmm.
hug on each other like that? Why you lean like there are pictures with Michael B. Jordan leaning his head on people that he's close to, right? And the first thing that was brought into question was his masculinity.
Wow.
Why is he laying
Mm-hmm.
his head on Ryan Coogler like that? Why he's so close to Chadwick like that? You know, and so it kind of disencourages you to do so, if that makes
Yes. Well, I listen a lot to Urban Talk Radio, and there
sense.
was when you mentioned Michael B. Jordan, there was a comment, there was a rant that someone did on TikTok or something, and they played it to talk about it, where a guy talked about one of his a black man talked about one of his friends saying, "Man, let's go see the movie Sinners."
Mhm.
Everybody's been talking about it. He went off. What in the blank, 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 blank is this man gonna do asking me to go to a movie? What I look like? Some da da da. Because his friend, a male, asked him to go to the movie. I ain't no woman. That's for women to do.
Hmm.
And it was a long rant. And it kind of speaks to that why can't you and your buddies just go to a movie? Because it's a movie that is out, is popular, everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
And so girlfriends can go see a movie and go have coffee after, go have wine after, and
Yep.
talk about it. But guys can't.
Yeah. And that's where that rigid masculinity piece comes in,
Mm-hmm.
right? That hegemonic rigid masculinity says,
Yes.
I can't connect to this because I don't want people to have the wrong message and the wrong perception.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're looking at challenging those norms, you're able to take a step back and realize how is this impacting me in a harmful way,
Mm-hmm.
right? I always ask clients all the time, how much does that cost? How
Yes.
expensive is this? And so how expensive is it for me to uphold this misperceived masculinity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because right now the cost is isolation, the cost is loneliness, the cost is feeling like nobody cares about me, the cost is trying to maintain masculine fantasy and unrealistic expectations, and the cost is extreme stress, which leads to heart disease, high blood pressure, right, and depression because it's just you and nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you watching your sister, your cousin, your auntie, they having a ball.
But you can't, which I didn't even get into because believe it or not, the time is about
Yeah, yeah,
over
yeah, yeah.
because I wanted to talk about that whole mind body connection. We won't even go there because what I want is a ray of hope. So we have outlined the problem.
Hmm.
What can we do? What word of encouragement or
Yeah,
what can you say to men who are in this rigid masculine role or in these or being vilified,
yeah.
just being a black man in America. But what can you say? A word of encouragement.
I mean, a word of encouragement is don't be afraid to be yourself. That there is the blackness is not a monolith. There's not one way to be a black man. Um, whoever you, how you show up is being a black man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that doesn't matter what spectrum that looks like. And the more that you're able to embrace who you are, the better that you are able to connect to community. Like I said, there's a favorite song of mine on the Wiz about the Tin Man, and the Tin Man says, "If I reach inside myself and I like what I see, then I'll share this song with everybody else." And so that's where that's really going to start. As long as you like yourself
Mm-hmm.
and what you see about you, hey, that's when you start to connect. And so I would really encourage black men to connect with one another, compliment each other more, open up and have conversations. Ask your homeboys to the movies. Go on a few lunch hangouts. Because he needs it just as much as you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because your girlfriend, your wife, your mother, your auntie, your cousin, whoever, your sister, they cannot be all things.
Right. And there are some groups recently have started in different locations have
Hmm.
started doing barbershop talks.
Yes, yes.
And that's a good thing because going to the barbershop for guys is like going to the beauty salon for women.
Hmm.
And, the conversations are typically on football or whatever, masculine stuff. But those that are going into those venues to do some real conversations. And so that is a way to connect. We are out of time. Can you believe it?
Yeah, look, like it goes by. Like
Wow.
no, but
But I do want to mention one thing, and you
hmm
can share this with men as well. So I
yeah,
am hosting a silent summit. So what is a silent summit?
hmm
It is a 6-hour mini retreat in Arlington, Texas, and it's June 7th. And what was going to happen the first hour, you just kind of gathering, getting everybody to get there and get in place from 8 to 9. But from 9 to 10, we're going to talk about what is silence, what is grounding, what is meditation. Then each person will have their own little tented area to sit in. And it's going to be on 5 acres of land, so you can walk and talk, and we're going to be just nice enough to hold your cell phone and all electronic devices and your watches just for you. So you're not looking, man, it's only been 10 minutes. No, you're not going to know, because the idea is to really disconnect
Yeah.
off and get off the grid. So you have 3 hours of silence. You will be given a guided journal, but it'll have blank paper, line paper, different prompts, different things to think about introspectively. This isn't the most masculine thing, but we'll put it in there. Maybe the guys will leave it out. We'll have the adult coloring pages
Hmm.
because that can be good, but we'll put it in all,
Relaxing.
some women don't even like them, but it can be really relaxing. And you'll be given your own markers and colors and all of this. So this is going to be June 3rd. I'm sorry, June 7th. So I wanted to throw that out there. And anybody interested, you can message me and I'll put some information in the chat and you'll have a chance to, um, check it out. So share that with, your people. And I wanted to throw that out. Men and women, we all need to get off the grid.
Yeah.
We all need to have a moment to just woosah.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. I'm gonna have you back because we
Yeah.
just didn't get enough in tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
I had
Yeah.
more questions, but hey, we're good. So I want to thank you. I always end every night. I end with a call to action, and
Okay.
that call to action is Black men, take care of yourself. I
Yeah.
agree with what you said. Be you. And you know what? Sometimes we don't know, who am I?
Hmm.
Justin Owens is here. He's a therapist. And some Black men still want to talk to a female therapist. I mean, we're not the only two therapists around. Find one.
Right. Right.
I would
Right.
say if I'm not the one for you, I will help you find one.
Same here.
So, and I end everything with saying vote, vote, vote. Be an educated voter. How you vote and who's in office impacts every part of your life. Black men, for real, it impacts your life. Any final 30-second word?
No, again, thank you so much for bringing me on. I really enjoyed this. I hope that this helps somebody, that they're not afraid to either reach out to myself or reach out to Miss B, or even if you have questions on how do I reframe my ideas around masculinity, that's my jam. That's what I'm here for.
All right. And Justin's information is in the chat. You'll be able to in the below in Facebook, you'll be able to see it. So I will see you guys next. I'm Miss B, the Black Couch Therapist. I'm here to help you become a